Hello, what's good, y'all? It's Outspoken Bean. I will be our moderator for our conversation that we'll be having today with Carla Sue and David Dove. But before we get into that, right? Let's go ahead and let's start off with a poem from me. All right. It's a newer poem, so I'm gonna actually read it because I'm trying to get it memorized and stuff. And it starts off as I am past the point of no return, then I remember my promise. In making a customer to my service that came in non-negotiable terms, targeted as a Don Walmart policy that I won't nor can't return myself. When I left the shelf, I started life. These priceless times are tagged to me. I have to remind myself that I have to retell myself, not to discount me. I am the manager, on call and general. The answer to how I can help you can always be found on the row with the mirrors. What's new in store has always been in store. The inventory has been barcoded and accounted for. My worth is my offer. That is my only offer. Attention shoppers, we have a steal of a deal. Here I am on and in the aisle. I am no longer waiting for intercoms to announce my calling. Thank you. Hey, I'm imagining you're clapping. Appreciate it. Right? So let's get into, let's bring in the other artists. Carla Sue and of Nameless Sound, David Dove. Let's do it. Hey,
Bean, how are you doing?
I'm all right. What's up, man? How are you?
Hanging out on a Saturday morning with you.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, definitely. So we have some, let's go ahead, if you don't mind introducing yourself, and then also you have some video, yeah?
Yeah, we do. So my name is David Dove. I am an artist, I'm a musician, and I'm also the director of Nameless Sound, an organization here in Houston that presents experimental and creative music from artists from around Houston, from around the state, from around the country, from around the world. And, incidentally, to give the whole picture, we also work with kids all over Houston in workshops that involve creative music and improvisation. And we have one of our programs is called They Who Sound. It's you want me to go into that, Bean, and just sort of tell that story?
Yeah, go ahead and tell that story, and then we'll play the video.
Okay, cool. They Who Sound is a weekly concert series that we're doing with Lawndale Art Center, at Lawndale Art Center. And it features mostly local and regional experimental musicians. Every week there would be 2 performances by 2 different artists or 2 different groups. And, not only was it an opportunity to listen to music every week, but it was a free concert. It was a sort of a gathering point for a lot of people who were kind of a community point for a lot of people who were interested in this music, either as performers or as listeners, and just a real connecting point. So obviously when the quarantine went down, like everyone else, we lost a lot in that project.
Yeah, man.
And I guess I should set up this video and tell you what it is, right? So one of our responses to presenting work in this time was to, a lot of musicians at that time were going online. It seemed to be the very quick response to lack of opportunity to perform or to get on Facebook Live. Mm-hmm. I was thinking, what can us as an organization do? Because it's easy for the musicians to go ahead and get themselves online. They don't need us to do that necessarily.
That's right.
And I was thinking, we're getting our groceries delivered. We're getting everything delivered to us now. Everyone's going on Amazon. How come we can't just deliver the performance also?
There you go.
So we set up a project called They Who Sound Special Delivery, and anyone could sign up to get one or a package of 4 performances, 10-minute performance delivered to them. And we had a list of artists who had agreed to do this. I did the work of scheduling it and sending people around. We had, it was all outdoors, kept 6 feet away. We had a rule that everyone was meant to wear masks, but we're going to be a little more strict about that, as you can see from the video, that not everyone followed that rule. And,
is that your disclaimer? Is that your disclaimer?
Well, it's an interesting point to talk about. Of course, this was in May. We're looking at it like, I don't know. Things are looking more serious now. But
yeah, right.
And we could talk a little bit more about it afterwards.
Yeah, let's get to the video.
Just roll the video. Yeah.
Yeah, let's get to the video. Whoa, man, that's so cool, man. That's so cool. We got Nameless Sound here, y'all, and the internet is usually undefeated unless you need it for a good cause, and the internet is giving Carla some issues right now, but we're still going to go ahead and play her video. Hopefully, you don't mind, David. We're going to go ahead and play her video. Hopefully that can give us some time, and she'll be back in. So let's go ahead and play Carla's video.
I was just watching the Home Shopping Network.
And now you can get this one-of-a-kind item for the low price of just...
And I thought to myself that I could probably do the same thing for people in my community, solely to help small businesses during this crisis. It's just such a really cool way to support my community, just recreate the same kind of feeling of the Home Shopping Network, but more offbeat and cool.
It's the Carla C Network. It's a home shopping network, for the homies.
And then I put it out on social media to make sure that they get some publicity. I basically was going to do this solely for myself. I lost my job. I got laid off like many people. Sales slowed down dramatically with my small business. So I was thinking, okay, how can I promote myself? But then I started to speak with my small business friends and just hearing their stories, which were just so heart-wrenching. And I immediately went into the mode of like, okay, how can I help everyone, including myself? They have been sending me just video footage of them with their product or pictures, and I make a slideshow and I do a little voiceover, put on my best Home Shopping Network voice. A lot of the businesses have contacted me and let me know that, they've gotten a lot of leads off of it. They have some followers now, new supporters. So it's been great. And that's all I wanted, was just them to be able to just get the proper support during this time, because small businesses are suffering pretty bad right now. skincare products, clothing, baby clothing. I have a person that has a farmer's market they're growing their own fruits and veggies. So it's a whole array of businesses just to show everyone in the city that you can buy everything you need right here locally. We do a lot of outdoor markets, a lot of small businesses, that's how they start. They start doing the outdoor market circuits, pop-up markets, festivals. We see a lot of the same businesses at these markets in this circuit, and we get to know each other. We get to know each other's families, and it's definitely a really strong community here in Houston. I am a part of this community of small businesses in the city, and just to be able to support them in any way that I can just feels good. It feels right. So I'm definitely going to keep doing it.
That's so cool.
Right.
Yeah, that is so cool. So we'll be getting things. Hopefully she'll be able to join us soon. Everyone that is watching, make sure you type your questions, and we, for myself, for even Carla Sue, and for David, so that way we can answer, or for me, I'll take some questions, and that way I'll go ahead and answer them. I'll go ahead and say them to the person who is directed it to, and then we can answer it. Sounds good to you, David?
Sounds fine to me.
Sounds fine with me. All right, man. So, how long? Like, you're a musician,
Yes.
right? And how long have you been in this? You're from Houston? Are you from Houston? Like, how did you get into creating Nameless Sound? How did that journey start with you?
Well, Nameless Sound has been going for 20 years now.
Okay.
And the journey started a few years before that. I started as an artist, and I was playing improvised and more experimental kind of music, and I felt that traditional music education was too conservative, and that young people didn't have an opportunity to do creative things with music. That typically in school you're in the band, you're in the orchestra, and all these things are great things, but there wasn't an opportunity to really make your own music, right? To compose your own music, to improvise your music.
That's right.
Me, I'm an improviser. That's how I work.
There we go.
So I started by, it's before Nameless Sound, it started with a workshop that I proposed over at Mecca Arts Community Center.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to work with young people and give them an opportunity to improvise and to do something that wasn't being done in the traditional setting. And I was also presenting concerts, finding opportunities to bring artists, mostly kind of avant-garde jazz artists, and into Houston to perform. And I was just sort of putting it together on a project-by-project basis. And my mentor is a composer named Paulina Oliveros. I would recommend anyone look her up. She's a really special person. And she said, hey, you should start an organization. This seems like something that can get some support.
Yeah, right.
And when Pauline said jump, I always asked when and how high. But sometimes I was a little slow.
That's a good person to have in your corner with that. Yeah,
yes.
Right.
Sometimes I was a little slow, and she would nudge me. It took a couple of years because, again, I wasn't an arts administrator, or I was really doing this as an artist. It was an extension of my practice. So that's the seed of it. It's a 20-year journey, of course.
I like that. Yeah. So it sounds like, is there much difference from, so I asked that question, right, that beginning, because I think a lot of the things that's happened to us informs, I call it the human time machine. It informs on how we're going to react later, right? And whether we want to or not, whether we want to like accept it or not. So with that, it sounded like you started this, or it's 20 years now. Oh my gosh, it's a long time. And you kind of started from the beginning. So was there anything reminiscent to when the pandemic happened? And you didn't see the pandemic really happening, or I'm assuming that. But is there lessons that you took from the beginning that you were able to put right now for what you're doing now?
That's a great question, Bean. Yeah, Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
You know, uh, two things that I would say is, in short, one is that both situations are, what we do as artists is that problems present themselves, right? And we find creative solutions. And oftentimes in those creative solutions, new opportunities arise. I mean, in music, we see it all the time, that whole forms of music come out of situations where things are lacking often.
Come through, man. Come through. And that's like when you think of jazz, right? You said you improvise. Right. Jazz in a lot of ways is that. You know what I'm saying? It's just like they don't have all the tools there, so what can you do? Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah.
You know, you're feeling it, so that's cool.
Yeah.
And we're riffing, so that's cool. But no, that's exactly what it was. Both situations are, okay, there's a problem, there's something lacking. What do we do? And then in finding that solution, and we're improvisers, you know, that we not only improvise the music, but we improvise our life choices. We improvise as response to conditions, right? We improvise in our relationships to each other. And
I didn't think about it that way. You're saying whether we want to or not, we are improvising.
Absolutely.
That's right.
We always are. It's not a choice.
Think about it that way. That's a good way to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important just to remember that. You know? And you know, and interesting solutions to me. We also experiment. So that the special deliveries was kind of an experiment, because the online thing is cool. I'm totally into it. But like I was saying, like, you know, musicians are already able to do that. And also, we're really missing like being in space with each other. Like the physical in space with each other.
Man. It's not the same, right? You're right.
And in the special deliveries, something that happened was that actually the performance became more intimate, because it's one thing to perform for 20 or 50 people or 100 people or however many show up to Longdale or any other space, but it's another to go to someone's house and they're your only audience.
There's a level of trust, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
There's a level of trust there. There's a level of vulnerability with that, because it's someone's home. You know what I mean? And it's not, and it's actually more vulnerable than house concert in my thoughts, right? I've had the pleasure of doing a tour across the country, just going to house concerts, like going to houseconcert.com, finding people and doing it that way, where you're going into people's houses. But those houses, it's those houses, yes, it's someone's personal house, but they do them so often where it's already kind of a situation where it's a setup, like it's just a venue. But these people, it seems like from what I saw in that video, these people don't have artists come to their homes. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
and there's a real wide range of things that happened in that, you know, like well, you saw one person who ordered the special delivery. It was a choreographer and dancer, and she just started dancing. She wasn't the performer, she was the audience. Which is less likely to happen, you know, like in a public concert.
In a controlled space.
Yeah.
A lot less likely to happen in a controlled space, which are like those house concerts I was talking about would be. There's still a control. Right.
And, you know, in another situation, I mean, like, I even think the music was kind of, its intimacy actually became sort of surprisingly uncomfortable for some people in the audience, actually.
In the audience or for the performers?
You know, none of the performers told me that.
Okay, good.
I didn't hear that from any of the performers. I didn't hear any, but you know, I don't want to like go too deep into it, because I'm sort of going into how someone else might have felt, and I don't really know what it is. But a little bit of feedback was that, you know, I felt like a little bit of that vulnerability was touched too, you know, because as an audience member, you're used to being anonymous, relatively anonymous. But when you're the only audience member, you sort of become...
You're the focus.
Yeah, you can become the focus all of a sudden.
It turns from a floodlight to a laser.
Right. Yeah.
We have a question here. how have you viewers had to adjust your projects or practice? Let us know in the comments. Oh, that's not a question. Yeah, y'all.
That's a question that you're asking.
How viewers have to adjust your projects and your practice? Yeah, that's for y'all. I thought that was a question. I got excited. I'm sorry. So how many of these have y'all done, or do you want to disclose that number?
We did. I should have counted those up. You know, we did a round of them that lasted about a month, and I think 10 or 15 people ordered them. Most people ordered a package of 4 because it was like $13 for one, or you can get 4 for $40 or something like that. And so we did quite a few. Then we took a pause, and we're going to probably start it up in a couple of weeks. We're getting ready to launch a new website. So when we launch the new website, we're going to start it up again.
Come on, website, man. I just launched my website this week. I'm so excited about it.
Oh, man.
Bean.com. Check it out.
Right. Well, we've been dealing with an old clunker for years. It's a good old clunker, but we're really excited to have a new one. But you know, we're going to be doing it for the next year or so. So on and off. So, you know, anyone can order. So check us out and sign up. Yeah. Again,
y'all make sure you drop the questions in the comments, and if you have an Instagram or website or whatever, if you want to put that in the comments afterwards, go ahead and do so that way I can shout you out. All right. This is all love right here. All right. Man, you know, and while we're here, before I get into some questions, man, dog, that sounds like something I would do, man. If you want to pair me up with one of your musicians, man, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Package, I'll show up.
Sure. Yeah,
man, we can
do you improvise?
Yeah. Huh?
Do you improvise?
Yeah, I do.
Sure.
Yeah, I do. And I can put poems to anything, man. It's all good. Yeah, I can improvise, freestyle a little bit. Yeah.
That sounds good.
That'd be something I'll definitely be into.
We love working with writers. We love working with writers and text and stuff. Yeah.
Oh man, let's do it. Let's make that happen, man. I have a question for you. How would you recommend someone interested in audio visual and sound art getting started from a technical standpoint? Is there a particular software / equipment / tools you found helpful or mandatory to learn? That's a real specific question, and I love it. Thank you.
That's a very specific question. I don't know if I'm the most qualified person, but I'll think about that for sure. Because, you know, I'm a trombone player, and I do use electronics and stuff, but, you know, I'm not an expert in the electronic stuff and the software stuff. But what I would say is that in no place in sound art or experimental music is there ever a mandatory start point. There are 1,000 start points.
Come on.
So, and, you know, maybe I think the mandatory start point is to just like dip your fingers and toes in a whole bunch of different things.
Oh yeah.
And
do
what feels right. If it's something sticks.
It's like messing up, trying things in that path though.
Yeah, I mean, this is why this is creative work, is there's no single line. Maybe whoever's asking this question, maybe they're interested in using, you know, Ableton or Max MSP, you know, some of these computer things. Maybe you're more interested in stringing together guitar pedals and loop pedals and microphones. Maybe you're more interested in circuit bending and taking apart electronics. These are all very different pursuits.
That's right.
So there's no mandatory start point except for just to start and mess around and mess up and try again and make yourself a laboratory.
And collaborate.
And collaborate too.
Collaboration is so important, right? It's so important to collaborate and man, and you know, and also another one that I would probably say to myself, I would say 34-year-old self would say to 24 is take criticisms. Take criticisms, whether you agree with them or not. there's something there that I can bend. Not all criticism is good, but I do think listening to them in the sense of like from people you trust. Let me say that. Criticisms from people you trust and trying to take those in and meld them to be your own, I think is really important. But yeah, you got to start. You just got to start.
One other thing, maybe I'll just plug, and I know we're about to bring Carla in, so I'll plug before I can get out of the way for her. Nameless Sound typically, of course not now, has a workshop that's a weekly workshop at Mecca that's open to anyone. In fact, Bean, you should come and sit in on it when we get back into the real world. Mm-hmm. And the person who asked the question about where's my starting point, I would encourage you to come to our workshop once that gets going again. Again, it's open to anyone. It's an improv workshop, and it's a great opportunity to like experiment with your electronics, experiment with your voice.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to, and I'll be there. Let's bring in Carla.
All right.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I am actually inside of like a Sprint Boost mobile store.
That'll be all right.
But I'm here now. Right. Thank you guys for your patience.
Also, do not say their name again.
Okay, sorry. Apologies. Apologies.
They did not sponsor this. Hey.
Cancel that.
Carla, so we're so happy to have you here.
Me too. I'm happy to be here.
We're making things happen, right? You're in a unidentified phone store, and just give like 2 sentences. Give a brief of who you are, real quick.
Hi, I'm Carla Sue. I'm the owner of Carla Sue Greeting Cards and Gifts. And I sell funny and vibrant greeting cards with a punch to them. And this is my way of relating to this little counterculture world that we have of like nerdy Black girls.
And here we are.
So like to bang screw.
Bang screw. So, Carla, I don't know why I didn't know about the Carla Sue Network. I'm a little embarrassed because I follow you, and I didn't know this was happening. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that is incredible. That is so. I think a lot of times the term is think outside the box, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's just a cliche. A lot of times you gotta go back inside the box. That's been proven. And you've already done the work of thinking outside the box when you're thinking about creativity of your greeting cards. Mm-hmm. But something like this happened where we can't go outside like that. We can't. It was for a good amount of time. We couldn't do the farmer markets where you and I really met, right? We couldn't do all of that. So you went back to the what are they called? Those what was that channel? QVC network box. You went inside the QVC network box and created something that is that you already did the work outside the box. Then you went back into a box to create something that was proven. And it's just like I'm sitting here looking at it and I'm like, that is incredible. I know how you came to I know how you came to doing that, right? I know why, right? The pandemic, all right? That's kind of a answer for everything. But like, were you growing up? Were you a fan of QVC? There was people I know who were fans of QVC and stuff like that. Were you a fan of it? What made you say, you know what, I should do that specifically?
Oh, first of all, heavens no, I wasn't sitting around as a child watching the Home Shopping Network.
Right.
I was watching, I don't know, Barney. But
right.
So no, it was in the midst of everything happening, all the markets getting shut down, and just feeling, like you said, just feeling like I had to think fast and take things back to the basics, because I knew that money was tight and inventory was low. So I had to get creative, and I was flipping through the channels and on my TV, and I saw this guy really hamming it up, selling scarves. And It was just the most
like a Billy. What was his name? Billy. He passed away a long
um
time. Billy Mays.
I don't know this guy. I don't know. I've never seen this guy before. He was not. He's the most unlikely person to be selling scars to me, but he was really selling it, and I believed him. And so I was like, I could do that, just on a much doper level. Cool. But and so I just started the Carla Sue Network. I was like, I can do that. I'm gonna call it the Carla Sue Network, and yeah, that's dope. It was just one night in my garage, relaxing, drinking wine, and yeah, the idea came.
I think that's awesome. And
Thank
so
you.
What people have contacted you to be on it? What kind of artists?
Everybody. I mean, you know what? To be completely transparent and honest with you, like the Carla Sue Network was at a time where, I was really just trying to put myself on and put others on, just desperate to like get us all help, However, I didn't anticipate like how large it would get. And I wasn't ready for that. I was not ready to handle that along with my day-to-day sales. And, it was just a mess. Hundreds of people, and I couldn't keep up. And then Carla Sue began to gain a lot of momentum, my business. And so I had to put it on pause. And, I hate that because it's like this ad, whatever the reel that you guys saw, it keeps being run on channel 2. And I have to say, hey guys, I had to take a break because honestly, my focus is now currently on the revolution that's happening right now. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's just to be frank, that is where my focus is. That's where my art is going to be based on, and really just creating things that brings the culture together and brings people that appreciate and love the culture, Black culture, just bring us all together on a common bond, so, and then laugh in the process, and build each other up in the process. So I'm only interested in creating that type of art right now. But I think the Carla Sue Network was just like way too ambitious at the time. Great concept. It wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be, but I'm happy everybody loved it. Everybody loved it. I featured who I featured. They got a lot of sales and a lot of traffic from it. And that's all I wanted.
No.
So, yeah.
And so it seems like you can't sow and reap in the same season. And so I'm glad that you were able to reap something during that season.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For
sure. So it sounds like you've made multiple transitions during this time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Growing pains. It hurts so bad. But it's so good though. This whole time, it has allowed me to just like tap into things that I haven't had the time to tap into. It's like, okay, I'm not selling a lot right now. Things are kind of slowing down. I'm just going to create a lot of content, and just try to connect with the people digitally. That's my struggle because I'm so used to seeing people face to face in person. You know how we do, like you said, in the market space. I'm sure it's same with you, David, playing in front of crowds and stuff like that, and all of the events with Nameless Sounds. It's like we're all just trying to figure out how to like where we fit in this digital world. And it's been a journey for me to just kind of see like what works and what does not work. So basically I've been playing around. So the Carla Sue Network, I did that. Everybody was for it. They were like, yeah, it's dope. And then when I stopped it, they were like, okay, that's cool. Cause I put it out there like, hey, I'm just going to try this, speaking to my audience, and they knew that it was just like, oh, we appreciate you. They were just happy for the opportunity. And so I left that, and then I did a brunch where I just interviewed creatives, which, oh my God, I would love to interview both of you. That would be so amazing.
Yes, and I speak for David. The answer is yes.
Okay, but yeah, where I interviewed just dope creatives in my life, and that built a lot of momentum, and then I dropped that, and I'm just kind of like seeing what will fit.
All right,
and what,
listen, you ain't gonna get us excited about stuff just to tell me.
I know it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad, but it's bad. But that's coming back though. I was no. But that is coming back though. That the brunch is one of the concepts that I've been working my schedule. I've been really trying to figure out like a proper workflow. That's been my struggle since I've started this creative business of just like figuring out when I can create and stop doing all the business crap that I hate so much.
Did you, you said something interesting, right?
Yeah.
You said you're trying to create a workflow since you started this business, right? Or along
Yeah.
those lines, right? So
Right.
that's you're talking pre-pandemic.
Oh, sure, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
And then
so
yes.
do you find yourself, are you a kind of a person that kind of operates when things are not going like when things maybe seem chaotic? Do you tend
Yeah.
to find yourself creating more? Do you have a
Yeah.
schedule? Are you organized? I'm not organized. I'm that's one of my
Mhm.
weaknesses. I'm terrible at it. That's why I have
Same.
someone to help me be organized, right? But
Yeah.
like if you want to talk about that, also David, that's a question for you. I'm curious as well. Yeah, how is your how would you say your organization has improved because of this?
Whew. First of all, I'm a wreck. But yeah, I'm kind of a mess. But it's been a process of just like getting better. As things, like I said, as the momentum builds, in sales, like there's this big boost of like people buying from Black businesses, and I have benefited from that a great deal. And it's really dope. But also, it's like, okay, we've been here, and when is this going to end? So I'm just really trying to make sure that I can be able to handle the sales, connect with all of my stores, take care of my child, take care of my husband, and then still create in the midst of all of this stuff. Homeschooling now, everybody's trying to adjust to all of this madness, and I really had to I was a project manager for a few years, and I had to take things back to like, okay, what if I was working on a project right now? How would I manage this? And I
Right.
had to open up Excel spreadsheets and really do a lot of block timing and
The
block my
business.
time.
The
Yeah,
business.
the business, but also still, but with doing all of that, I've had more time to create, and it's like, oh, okay, it's working.
Girl,
Um,
you just said something. When you do the business, when you organize the business, it gives you
mhm.
time to create.
But the thing that people don't tell you is that it is such a process to get on that track. If you're a person that's not typically used to being organized in this way and having this type of workload, this is a brand new world for me.
That's
So
right.
it is adjustment. I'm still in it. I'm still learning it, but I feel good about it, and I'm dope, and things are gonna be even doper, for lack of better words.
Those are fine words. Yeah. What about you, David? If we want to take that same answer.
Oh, we're talking about about doing work and making work and keeping the organization flowing, and how this current moment has thrown some kinks into that and all of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, for me, for 20 years, I've been operating as both an artist and the director of a nonprofit. And
Wow.
that in of itself, I mean, when I was in my 20s, that was like, I had the energy to do all of that,
Yeah,
I, I don't have children. So, like, I acknowledge that's adds a whole nother layer of
yeah,
things. And I think that makes it a little easier. But even before pandemic, as time goes on, yeah, man, juggling that
yeah,
stuff is a heck of a thing. And
yeah,
I'm really fortunate now that I have like a fantastic team in Nameless Sound that works with me. And it's a small group and everyone works their asses off. But, it's a few of us. Without going into too many deeply personal details, what happened for me at the time of the quarantine was I had like a health issue that was quite serious, non-COVID related, that kind of took me about 75% of my energy away from having to deal with organization and stuff
right.
for quite a while. I'm much better right now, but it was tight. In that moment, you just have to. For me, it was just about simplifying and prioritizing.
Mm.
And first, it was just about actually like keeping the organization surviving, because that's another thing. It's like you're not only trying to respond and like do work and do the work that the organization is supposed to do, The artistic work, sending people out and, you know, having these experiences for people and having opportunities for artists. There's also just keeping the damn machine running,
Yeah.
And, it's important to remember that they're part of a whole. And sometimes it can feel like you're putting in too much energy into keeping the machine running and not enough energy into actually doing creative work. And sometimes it can feel like you're doing too much creative work and you're worried that this nuts and bolts and screws are going to come out of the machine.
Right.
But, to step back, to go, there's a bigger picture, maybe to do what Carla has done, perhaps. Hey, not this now. I know people love it. I know it's working, but it can wait. Or, it happened and it was cool. And that's enough that it happened. It doesn't have to keep happening, and to prioritize, because we have time ahead of us. This is a long game and all of that. I'm older than you guys, so I just say I know it's a long game. Sometimes you get stuck like a hamster in that wheel, and you got to step back and go, it's cool for a little while. In fact, that was my first response to pandemic, was like, to quarantine, was like, maybe it's like, in fact, I think the title of this very panel here, I can't remember what the title is, but sort of speaks to that. It was like, hey, let's take a minute. Let's step back. Maybe this is an opportunity to take account of the bigger picture. I don't know if I answered your question, Dean, but...
You did, man. You did. Yeah. And you kind of answered some of the questions that came in the chat. So I want to, this one is on the screen, but there's a few others. But I have had to shift my entire concept of how I work. I am a body artist and arts educator. Do you have any ideas of ways I could engage that go beyond the passive Zoom style experiences? I would say Streamyard, right? I'm kidding. But
dude, I like it here.
Streamyard is I like Streamyard because it's kind of creating a digital stage. It has a backstage, it has wings, it has all these different things, right? But anyway, that's besides the point.
I like it.
Yeah, like one thing that David is doing is like having people, order artists to come to their front lawns, right? And that is not Zoom. You know what I mean? That is very much right there in front of people. And you said that Amazon, right, David? Like, I think about like, people are thriving for like live connections and that kind of energy. And so if you are doing something like that, right, outside in August 2020 is not the same as April 2020, right? April 2020, I was more curled up in my house. I wasn't going outside at all. Most people weren't. Now people are starting to go outside and stuff. And so, and then have a mask and things like that. I would try to create something where it's like very limited people, and they have to be 6 feet apart, 6 to 8 feet apart. And if they're there, they need to have a mask on. And then maybe there's something you can create like that. Like, I don't know if you want to go to their homes. I don't know if you're by yourself. Like, David, you have a whole organization, so it's a little different. There's safety precautions and stuff like that. But that's because I'm even thinking like, oh man, well, if we're starting to do this, I'm willing to be outside. I'm willing to be outside with people away. I am, and so I would think about that. Anybody else? And then I'm gonna get to another question. Carla, say.
Actually, I've been pondering on that this entire time as well, and so I was like, "Oh, girl, I don't know." When I read the question, I was like, "I have no idea. I'm still trying to figure it out myself." But I've been having that conversation with my husband, like,
am I gonna go outside? Because my friends are in the streets right now. They're out here, and they're
Well,
doing it
it's one
safely
thing
from
to
what it
be
looks like.
outside at a park. It's another to be at Prospect Park. You know what I'm saying? Like
Sure,
it's
sure, sure. Right,
that's where
right.
your friends are. They're at bars.
Yeah. That's it's just kind of it's kind of a lot for me the way that my anxiety is set up.
Yeah.
But however, though, I have been thinking about, like I have some things in the works where it will be some social distancing stuff, very small, intimate groups. I'm cool with that, and I've been planning that. So, and then, but right now, I'm just really focused on like connecting with my audience digitally because I feel like that's where I'm going to be the majority of the time. So, I've
Awesome.
been just doing little things here and there on my social media platforms, little shows, little segments. I do a little
Hey,
thing called In the Car with Carla Sue
Instagram, and
as
it's also
intro.
like, and I don't know if she was using Zoom as
Mm,
all things digital and virtual, but there is a difference between each platform. There
yeah,
is a difference, right? I was doing
yeah,
something on Instagram Live for a while, and that was my preferred thing with Know You're Projecting. Like
right.
I said,
I
StreamYard.
like that.
There's other things to use in Zoom because Zoom has been synonymous now with work.
Mm.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's
Yes, yes, sure.
synonymous with work. So maybe even just using a different platform, it's like
Yeah,
okay. It's like even though it's still on the computer, it's still on their phone, whatever. It's
yeah,
triggering of like it's not saying because my job uses Zoom. So it was like when I think of Zoom meeting, I think naturally work. I think work. You know what I mean? Rather than just like, oh, this is not work. This is different, right? Like I think words are important with that. Here's another question.
yeah.
We all
Mm.
seem like natural networkers. Can you share some advice on networking? I'll leave this to the two of you. David?
Hmm.
Yeah, I want to hear David's advice. He's the OG.
Yeah, well, what is my advice on networking? You know, uh, I'm not sure what to say about that. I guess the advice that I have. I mean, we all know all the tools. I mean, there's no tools I can offer that you don't already know. Uh,
Yeah,
I think the important thing to remember is like, I don't know who's asking this question, but the important thing for me to remember is to remember what I do. So, I'm an extrovert, and yeah, I'm a natural networker, and I'm both a performer and an educator and the director of an organization, and all of those things mean that I have to connect. That connecting with people and building community is the essence of what I do.
oh yeah.
But also just remember what it is that you do. Like
Mhm.
it's okay to connect with someone, to think they're cool, to develop a friendship, a relationship, a casual acquaintance. But like if your work doesn't connect with their work, it's okay. You don't have to be in a network. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
you can exhaust yourself networking also. You
yeah,
know. And that's what I'd say is like, keep it out there and not knowing the specifics of the person asking questions. It's like, know what your work is, be able to speak to it, keep it out there. It's an ongoing thing. And
yeah,
you never know the people that you're going to connect with that are really like the really important people. I mean, there's people who I have met through really random situations that maybe when I first connected with them, I didn't realize how integral they were going to be to my life. And, there's people that maybe I connected with who I thought, oh, yeah, this is who we're going to really be rocking with. And, it wasn't. Again, this is not like a statement of a judgment of quality of people. It's just about like, there's a lot of people out there. So it's just like
yeah.
being open and being responsive and listening, always listening to people. So those are very broad, impressionistic answers, but
I think I can add to that, right? You said something very important. You said you're a natural performer, all of these things, and to me, networking is just I may first off I may seem we seem like we're natural networkers, right? Let's like, that's a very important word. We seem like it, but I like to talk. I like to network, but it still needs to be practiced. You know what I mean? I am a natural performer. I'm a natural performer. Still needs to be practiced. This rehearsals still happen for Broadway actors. You know what I'm saying? As natural as a performer as Beyonce is, she has rehearsals. You know? And so networking has to be practiced. And it has to be practiced and talking with people. There's more people who are not natural at it than who are. So, and you still need to connect with them. So connect with those unnatural people.
Right. I mean, that's important. That's important.
Connect with those unnatural people, and they won't know the difference. It'll be like -1 plus -1 is still 1. It's still 2, y'all. Like, we'll be all right.
Well, I mean, it's like we need the introverts too, and sometimes the introverts. Sometimes the introvert. It's in a way, it's like an issue of equity. In a way, it's like the introvert, you might need to put a little more effort or use some different measures to sort of get involved with that person than the extrovert.
Come through, David.
Yeah.
Carla, do you have anything to add? Because I want to get through most of these questions.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with both of you on both fronts. Yeah, we have to balance each other out, the introverts and the extroverts. Introverts help me get organized. So yeah.
Yeah, and they're performers as well.
Right.
In-person collaborations have to be put on hold. We are trying to work on things that could be complementary to the project, such as blog, website, grant writing. What are some side projects, efforts, and efforts people can be working on outside of the arts? I want all of us to answer, but try to just be real quick with this. So go ahead, Carla.
Told you, like I said earlier, I'm focused on the revolution right now of my people and the liberation of all Black and brown people at this moment, bringing everybody together on one common bond, which is like, ending white supremacy and liberating, all of the oppressed people. So that requires all of us. And I've just been focusing on that and like working with different organizations, trying to figure out how I can raise funding for them. And just kind of like, putting a portion of my sales from Carla Sue to different organizations, like Reclaim the Block and things like that. So I'm focused on the revolution. That's outside of art. I don't know if but that's it's not a hustle though. It's just, so I don't know if that answered the question, but that's me personally where I'm at.
What were some of the things that you had to do to support that though? Those would be the hustle.
Like, okay, so yeah, like I said, I was selling shirts and I put 100% of the proceeds toward to going to Reclaim the Block to help the kids out in St. Louis and the freedom fighters. So yeah, it was just a lot of coming out of my own pocket to make that happen. A lot of organizing and research, and really just like trying to figure out where I exist in this space. But yeah, so I guess that's what was the hustle of just trying to hustle up as much money as I could from people who are willing to donate to this cause. And trying to inform them while informing myself. So
That's right. It's a mule works while it eats while it works.
I mean, I don't know if I can say anything deeper than what Carla just said, except
got a little intense.
Well, except to support you and say, like, you know what, even, there are things that are more important than making art sometimes, that sometimes we see art making is like sort of made a religion by some people. And as important as it is into my life, there are other things that are more urgent and more important. And, sometimes those things intersect. Sometimes they can be put at the service of each other, right? Art can be put at the service of social justice and vice versa. And sometimes they don't have to be, And I would say the same thing with side hustles, It's like we're so often trying to figure out how to survive as artists, and sometimes we just got to survive so that we can be artists. And the survival, the way of surviving isn't necessarily the art. There's no shame in that, you know?
That's a bar.
And
That's a bar.
yeah, and I think that we see this sort of like, we gotta like let go of the hierarchies of like, you know, like in music, people go like, oh, you're a musician. Okay, like if you say you meet someone like, you know, like it's your like, I don't know, like distant relative or like some person who doesn't really know what you do or whatever, and they're like, oh, you're a musician, and they go, so is that how you make your money? Is that how you make your living? And that's this like weird way of trying to legitimize what I do, as to like whether or not, as if that matters, if that makes me less of a musician or more of an artist or less of an artist.
Right.
And you know, it's okay to like
never say that to their favorite artists.
They would never say that to their favorite artists, and you know, you're no less of an artist because you have another job to support that art. You know, it's a hell of a world out there, and you know, not everyone is going to be a millionaire artist or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
man, we have a minute left.
All right.
I think. We're so sorry we weren't able to get. First off, it took forever for the questions and comments to come in. I just want that to be stated. All right. All right. It took forever for it to come. But if we didn't get to yours, we're so sorry. Tips. You know, keep creating. Jay-Z said in an interview, not in a song, the most genius thing we did is we did not stop. Right? That's a very powerful sentiment that I take to heart. My name is Outspoken Bean, and if you put in Outspoken Bean on Google, outspokenbean.com will come up. My Instagram, everything Outspoken Bean, it's all spelled correctly, will pop up, right? Carla, you want to say your...
Hi, I'm Carla Lyles, again, also known as Carla Sue. You can follow me at Carla Sue Houston on Instagram and Facebook, and you can go to my website, www.carlasuehouston.com. Just Google Carla Sue, and everything will come up. So, yeah, this was fun. Sorry I was late. Thanks, guys.
David?
David Dove, Nameless Sound. If I didn't get to any questions or anyone wants to reach out for networking, david.dove@namelesssound.org, and Facebook, Nameless Sound or David Dove, and you know, happy to connect with anyone out there, including you two, including Bean and Carla. I think we have future conversations.
Well, me and David, we do. Carla, we'll start it and then she'll cancel it.
Man, I'm ready. Give me the ball. I'm ready. Let's jump into something.
Let's do it. I'm here for it. Thank y'all so much for having us. Thank you, Fresh Arts, for being Fresh Arts.
Thank you, Phone Store.
Thank you, Phone Store. They didn't give us a check. Thank you, Fresh Arts, for being Fresh Arts and for being a part of this. If you want to contact any one of us, come to our social medias, our websites. You can DM me. I'm really easy to get in contact. So is Carla. And David, you want to say your Gmail again? I mean, not your Gmail, your email again.
David.dove@namelesssound.org.
And there it is. Thank
you, Fresh Arts. I love you guys so much. Reyes, Angela, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Bye, guys.
Carla.
Oh, Lord, I did it.
Hey.